all emotional clutter comes from inside you. Some of it comes from the people around you, quietly, consistently, and without your permission. And when those dynamics build up, you stop feeling like yourself. Today we're clearing relational clutter, the draining pulls, the subtle noise, and the emotional residue that comes from the people in your orbit. Now there's a kind of heaviness that doesn't come from your thoughts or your schedule, or even your own emotional patterns. It comes from the people around you. Not necessarily from conflict, not from dramatic moments, and not from obvious tension, but from the quiet, steady ways certain relationships pull on your energy. You feel it when you leave a conversation more tired than when you entered it. You feel it when someone's presence makes your mind tighten instead of soften. And you feel it when you're carrying emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. Now this is relational clutter, the emotional residue that builds up when your boundaries, your energy, and your attention are being pulled in ways you didn't choose. And today we're going to clear some of that space. So let's begin with the first truth. Draining people aren't always difficult people. Sometimes they are, but more often they're simply people whose emotional patterns collide with your capacity. It might be someone who needs more from you than you have to give. Someone who turns every interaction into a subtle emotional transaction. Someone who pulls you into their urgency, their chaos, or their narrative. Or someone who treats your presence as a resource instead of a relationship. These dynamics are rarely intentional, but they're always felt. And the cost is real. Because every time you absorb someone else's emotional weight, you lose a little bit of your own clarity. Now, relational clutter is what happens when you've been carrying too much of other people for too long. The first shift is this. Notice where your energy drops. Your body always tells the truth. There are people who make your shoulders rise the moment they walk into the room. People who make your breath shallow. People who make your mind brace. And people who make your emotional center tighten. Even if the conversation is polite. Now this is your system saying this interaction cost me something. You don't judge it. You don't shame it. You don't explain it away. You simply notice it, because noticing is the beginning of clearing. The second shift, you separate your emotional weight from theirs. Now, relational clutter builds when you start carrying emotions that aren't yours. Someone else's anxiety becomes your responsibility. Someone else's disappointment becomes your tension. Someone else's urgency becomes your pressure. Someone else's story becomes your emotional labor. So take a moment right here to imagine placing down anything you've been holding that didn't originate inside you. You're not abandoning anyone. You're returning to yourself, because your emotional clarity depends on knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't. Now this is the second step. You stop carrying what was never yours to hold. In the third shift, you reclaim the space that draining dynamics occupy. Because relational clutter doesn't just drain your energy, it takes up space inside you. Space you need for your own thoughts, your own emotions, and your own clarity. Because you need your own rhythm, your own life, and today you reclaim some of that space. Not by cutting people off, not by creating conflict, and not by making dramatic declarations, but by gently pulling your energy back into yourself. You do this by pausing before you respond, breathing before you absorb, noticing before you engage, and choosing before you give. This is how you clear relational clutter, not through force, but through awareness. And when you reclaim your space, your emotional center becomes available again. Your clarity returns. Your rhythm strengthens, and you feel like yourself. Now, relational clutter is real, and it's often the hidden reason you feel drained, foggy, or emotionally crowded. Now, today you've noticed where your energy drops. You separated your emotional weight from theirs, and you reclaim the space that draining dynamics have been occupying. This is how you clear relational clutter. Gently, intentionally, and without guilt. Now you take care and stay connected.